if you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it.
What do your characters represent?
Well, the characters represent a sort of a transcendent feeling that we all have inside us, that we could do better. We want to do better. We haven't time to do better. That we can be the people that we lionize. I haven't got the trappings of a circus, but there in my mind is a very active and bright and colorful place that's as good as any circus that I've ever seen.
If I pull any weird faces during this, it's because the sun is right in my eyes right about now, so it'll be a lot of squinting and scribbling up on my face, I'm afraid. So about a month ago, 2 months ago now, was the 5-year anniversary of starting to animate Clavum and stuff, and I really wanted to make a video for it. Season 4 was very labour intensive, and I was getting to the point where I was doing the final shove, sort of the final push to finish all the episodes. So I kind of skimped out on it, and I apologise. I said back in September I didn't want this thing to happen, but it happened again, and my bad. But hopefully this will make up for it, and it's a nice way to cap off the year, so let's go. Before anybody says anything, yep, my hair is shorter this time. We got a haircut after Clavum season 4 wrapped, I think, around about, you know, just to celebrate the occasion. So yeah, it may look a bit strange, but you know, it's better than having freaking hair blinding me, you know, like the sun is right now. My gosh, we're definitely getting older, you know. A lot of things are turning 5, a lot of things are turning 10, you know. Like, this isn't only the 5th anniversary of Clavums Animation development, this is also like the 5th anniversary since COVID-19, the 5th anniversary since my last time in high school personally. 10 years of Chris the dog. Yeah, that's a thing. I'm sure I'm not the only one who can say that in the last 5 years, and especially, definitely the last 10 years, we're very different people from who we were back then, you know. Like, I used to be very juvenile and very young-spirited, I guess, you know. I used to think the best of people all the time, and, you know, I used to put my faith in people who perhaps weren't necessarily worthy of it, and I'm going to be brutally honest. And I reckon those people know who they are. And you know, I talk a lot about how we've all changed and we've all become different because of certain things that happen in our lives. You know, change happens because crazy things happen in our lives and we have to adapt to it, you know. And I feel like that a very big part of my change is Clavum and the cartoon and all of you guys and everything that came with it. So I thought I'd like to take this time to talk about creativity, creating things, and I guess what that did for me. So the genesis of Clavums Adventures, the cartoon, started, and I gotta be real careful now because I don't want to out anybody who was involved necessarily. It all sort of started because of the girl, and I think I can end it there because I think everybody knows where it goes from there, to be honest, even if we weren't involved. And I told myself that, you know, I'll build myself back up again and I'll find something better than pining after people, especially people who don't necessarily feel the same way back. So I got to work and I pulled out all the old drawings I'd done over the last 4 years. I refined a lot of things, changed a lot of things, gave everything a little bit of a tune-up because it was going to go from a video game to a cartoon now. And I wrote all the scripts, I animated an intro, lost all the files, as you know. Started back up again from scratch. Then I did all the voice lines and I animated and blah 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 blah. And by about the April of 2020, I'd had a whole season sitting on a hard drive. And by that point, I realised that the whole thing had changed in my head, you know? I think when I started out, a part of me was wanting to say, I'll be the great animator, I will make cartoons, I will find my audience. Somehow, I would get world-class famous for making not very great cartoons, and then maybe that girl would come crawling back to me. Because, you know, when you're a child, and I was definitely a child, I just turned 16, you know, you see things as very black and white. But now I grow up and I realise that it wasn't really like that, and it never really was like that, you know. I felt burnt by some of the things that had happened after this whole girl thing. But now I look back and I realise that, you know, perhaps I instigated a lot of it, and a lot of it was my fault, and I have to come to terms with that. And I also have to come to terms with the fact that Clavum was, I guess, born out of spite, which isn't good. At the time of Season 1's development, so late 2019 and early 2020, before the lockdown, you know, I wasn't having a good roll of the dice of it either, you know. I looked up to someone who treated me as dirt under their shoe, and I felt like a shadow to a lot of people. And back then, I would look back on that and I would say that those people were being mean for no good reason. Then I realised, well, listen, all you did was just sit there and expect people to notice you for no reason. And then I remember I showed off Clavum to the world back in 2020, and then the season came out 2021, and, you know, it didn't do well. At the time, you know, in that year, it didn't do well. And, you know, that broke me a little. Because, you know, I thought, I've gone through all this adversity, I've gone through confessing my feelings to someone who didn't feel the same way. I've faced people who treated me like expletives, let's just say. You know, I've gone through a lockdown where I haven't been able to see all my friends. Surely I deserve to win, you know? Surely I deserve to become, you know, Fred. If anybody remembers Fred, you know, a YouTuber who makes a couple of YouTube videos that pop off, and all of a sudden he's got his own Nickelodeon show, and he probably lives in Beverly Hills or something, you know? I was like, why can't I get that? I worked hard, I put blood, sweat and tears into everything I made. Why isn't this successful? And, you know, I imagine that when people do this sort of thing and start out, they will probably have the same feelings. They will probably wonder, well, you know, I could work on a comic or a movie or a script, but come the end of the day, if nobody watches it, then what's the point? And it's only now, after a couple of years, especially after the Clavum movie wrapped, did I realise that it isn't really about the entire world, you know? It's about, do you have something that you think is worthy of putting out there for the people who will watch it, you know? Do you have a message that you think is worth telling in a script that you've written? Well, a change of scenery for you. The man up there wanted to sit down with his dog and he looked tired, so it's his bench now. The point I'm trying to get at is that you shouldn't try and make things to appease everybody. There were these Doctor Who fan films in the 90s, you're going to have to stick with me here, and Nick Briggs worked on them. He's the modern voice of the Daleks. And Nick Briggs once said about these fan films, which were very mixed in regards to reception, he said they try to appeal to everybody, and so they appeal to no one. And you have to have that mindset with when you make stuff. If you try and appeal to everybody, then it's not going to work, you know? Because everybody is so different, and they have different beliefs of what makes a good thing or what makes a bad thing, you know? So you should try and find your people, you know? This sort of creating stuff is sort of like socializing, you know? You should try and find your people and run with them, you know? You should try and find the people who like your work. You should try and find the people who are critical of your work in a good way, because criticism is always very important to evolve. And you should try and find people who have belief in what you make, you know? You know, there will be people who perhaps look at what you make and say, this is good, but you know, it could be better. And there will be people who will look at it and who will say, this is great, I love it. And there will be people who look at it and say, this is great. you should do XYZ because I want to see this, get big, And these are the kind of people that you should appeal to, But even then, it should appeal to your people, but it should also appeal to you because you're the one making it, So for instance, from real life, I know that Stan Lee wanted the Green Goblin to be a real goblin, but Steve Ditko said no, because Steve Ditko believed that Spider-Man should be grounded and it should be realistic, and where you have Iron Man fighting aliens from Mars and Captain America fighting modern Nazis or something. Steve Ditko wanted Spider-Man to be grounded. He wanted it to be realistic, Spider-Man was based off a real guy, in the sense that he was based off everyday Joes like you and me. He shouldn't be fighting ancient aliens and goblins and stuff, He should fight criminals like the Sandman, Sandman was a guy who just did crime and then he was in the wrong place at the wrong time and now he can turn into sand and stuff, So appeal to your audience, appeal to their criticism if it's valid, appeal to the people who genuinely enjoy what you do, but also appeal to your intuition, because 9 times out of 10 it won't go wrong. And if it does go wrong, then, you made a mistake and you can fix it, Every mistake is easily correctable. I think our generation is so incredibly lucky to have stuff like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Because, back in the old days, if you had an idea, the only way to get it out to someone was to sell it. And you hear all these horror stories about, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon made Captain America, but then Marvel sued Joe Simon when he wanted a percentage of the profits. You hear stories about how Steve Ditko lived in very reduced circumstances and sort of died a lonely individual while Spider-Man was raking in millions and joining the MCU. Ub Iwerks. Walt Disney did not make Mickey Mouse. A guy called Ub Iwerks made Mickey Mouse. There's no such thing as an Ub Iwerks world. It's not called Ub Iwerks Animation. The matter of the fact is that Walt Disney's built on lies, but that's a whole TED talk in itself, I reckon. We are very lucky to have places where we can post comics, where we can post movies, where we can post YouTubes, where we can post videos and cartoons, and we don't have to worry about the ownership of the character, because you make something, you put it on YouTube, that's yours, Of course it is on the YouTube system, but it shows you made it for yourself. You didn't make it to fulfill a deadline, you didn't make it to fulfill a quota. Some big boss didn't ask you to make what you made it because you wanted to, and I think there's something special in that, And you can create something and you can put it out on the internet and it can genuinely change your life, and I'm not being facetious about that, I'm speaking from experience, and I'm sure people who are in a similar situation to me can attest to this. But when you create something, it can really change your worldview, because I know that when I was growing up, and I don't put the blame on this on anybody, I think this is just a societal thing, the same way that racism and sexism is political much. You grow up and you're told, you work hard, you'll get a lot of money, and you'll live in a big mansion, and you'll never have to answer to anybody ever again, I grew up watching success stories like Walt Disney and Stan Lee and so many others, But then you grow up and you realise that, it doesn't really work like that, especially nowadays. You grow up and you see all these great stories about Stan Lee and Walt Disney and people like that. And you're like, yeah, I'll create stuff, I'll make cartoons, I'll make comic books, and then I'll be popular and successful, and things will be alright. And you see a lot of this nowadays with your Andrew Tates, Your Andrew Tates will sit on their high horse and say, yeah, make enough money and the women will come to you, and better garden, stuff like this, And come the end of the day, a lot of these people who preach these things were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, Jeff Bezos did not start Amazon because he was an underdog. He started Amazon because he got a loan from daddy, The culture of the 20s is kind of changing, even though we're not even halfway through it yet. It's very interesting to note this stuff, You got your Andrew Tates in one corner saying, get your money up. And you have a whole generation of people thinking that they don't deserve to be, for instance, in a relationship or have a house, or they don't deserve anything simply because they aren't rich. And the matter of the fact is that's just self-jeopardizing. You know, the economy's in a really bad place because of certain things that I won't go into. You know, the economy's bad, and it's not a great time for people to get their money up because it's just not viable. And you know, you see a lot of people still cling on to this idea of we'll be the next Andrew Tate. You know, we'll be big men with all their big money, with 1,000 women surrounding them day and night. You know, and so you know, you see a lot of this seep into the animation world, the creative world. You see a lot of people say, "I'll make the next." For instance, SpongeBob, I'll make the next Spider-Man, I'll make the next Transformers. You know, I'll make the next big thing, and then my name will be in the history books, and I'll be the richest man alive. And it's kind of sad, you know, because, you know, when you're a kid and you make stuff up, like I make Chris the dog up and stuff, you don't really make it up because you want to be famous, you make it up because you want to make, you know? And I guess this is the big point of the video, you know? Create because you want to. Don't create because you want to make money or because you want to impress someone or you want to show that you're better than someone special. But, you know, create because you want to. Create because you can. Because the materials are all out there, you know. It's not the 90s, it's not the 80s anymore, you know. You pick up a good camera, you can make a movie. You pick up the right supplies, you could write a comic book. And, you know, yeah, you can do it. The materials are all there at your disposal, you know. I make Clavum with Microsoft Paint. What are you waiting for, you know? And, you know, you have people who are scared. You have people who are scared of other people's opinions, you know. What if I make it and nobody likes it? You know, there are so many people in the world. There are, like, a good couple million, billion, gajillion, squillion, trillion, and many other words that end in illion amounts of people in the world. So what if like 12 people think it looks bad, you know? And you know, yeah, maybe it will look bad and somebody will actually say, you know, I like this, but it could be better. And they're not saying that to pull you down or break you down. They're saying it because they see potential and they want you to grab it with full force. And they think the only way that you can do that is by taking their advice. And you know, it works, you know? And this is something that I've had to come to terms with as well, you know? Tristan, one of the greatest fans I have, I think, he's up there. He said, well, you know, Clavum is good, but it's just kind of the same 3 villains over and over again, and I was wondering if you could perhaps do something else. And so season 4 has pretty much all original villains, and I hope he enjoys it, because I had great fun making them. You know, it's very important that, yeah, there will be people who detract because they can, you know, troll culture. And there'll be people who detract because they want to see it grow, you know, and you have to be able to tell the difference. And it's pretty easy, you know. Somebody will say something like, this sucks, and you're like, can you elaborate? And they don't, or they say something like, I just don't like it. Yeah, that's a troll, you know, move along, you know. But if someone's like, this is pretty good, but it could be better, you know, that's criticism taken on board. It won't really let you down. And if it does, then, you know, you made an experiment and it failed. And, you know, that's half the point of experiments. Thomas Edison, I think, said something to the effect of, I have found 100 ways to fail. Something to that extent. I don't remember the full quote. But yeah, it's something that's very important to remember, you know. You put your hand up in class and you say the wrong answer. That's fine, you know. That is the whole point of learning, you know. If you don't know what 2 plus 2 is and you say 5, and the teacher says no, 4, you now know that 2 plus 2 is 4, you know. That's what you take away from it. And it's the same way with cartoons and animation. Like, season 1, in my opinion, and I know that a lot of people probably won't agree with me, but in my opinion, it's not the best. It's not the best stylistically, it's not the best writing-wise, and you know, I could have done better. And sometimes, at the back of my head, I think, well, why don't I just reanimate it or something? You know, I could. But also, I remember that people do like it. People do look at it. And my friend Matthew, my best friend Matthew, he says that you can watch season 1 and you can see my style evolving. And you can see the animation getting better, and you can see the improvement. And he thinks that's really cool. That's an important lesson, you know? It's an important lesson to realise that, you know, you may start out and it will look terrible, you know? But Jake the dog says, you know, getting good at something means you suck at it in the beginning, something perfect, you know? You know, the first part of being good at something is that you suck, you know? And you know, I heard that stuff like that so many times in like school assemblies, and I'd roll my eyes. You know, it's like, can we learn science now, please? You know, rather than trying to fill my brain with all this hope and stuff. You know, but no, you know, they had a point. They really had a point. You know, you try hard enough, and you'll get it right. And I think I got it right with the movie, and that was what, 4th year. 2024. I've been doing this for about, there's been 3 seasons and a movie. That's 4 collective things, you know. I hit my stride with the movie. I think I really did. And you know, I did do season 4, and there are things that I think are better about season 4, you know, obviously. But like, I found my style. I found my house style. I hit my stride, you know. And it's important to remember that. It's important to remember that, look, you know, you have an idea in your head. It won't necessarily translate to what comes out on the other end. But, you know, you work hard at it. You put your effort into it. You put your whole back into it long enough. It'll work out, you know? It will go well. And even if you think it looks bad, somebody's going to look at this and say, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Back to Tristan. He read some of my earliest comics, and I look at some of that stuff and I cringe. Because I did a lot of that in Biro, and I didn't even have like a pencil sketch or anything. I just one shot and it was done, you know. And I look at that and I cringe. But you know, Tristan read it and he loved it. So you know, the stuff that you think has no value, you're wrong. It has value, you know. You know, another example from comic books is I freaking love comic books. If that's not apparent, you know. Stan Lee once wrote to a fan, Steve Ditko's got this really interesting idea. I don't know if it's going to be very good, but we're going to see how far we can run with it. So if it sucks, you can blame him. Yeah, we won't get into that, but what was that idea? It was Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange is a character that's well loved by a lot of people now. You know, he's a very important character. And he led the way for so many things, you know. He led the way to a lot of surrealism in comic books. And that's something to remember, you know. Stan Lee didn't believe in it. Steve Ditko did, you know. Regardless of how out there it was, somebody believed in it. And then other people looked at it and they believed in it as well, you know. Regardless of what you think, someone's going to think that whatever you make has value, you know. So don't be afraid of what people think of what you make, because someone's going to like it. Someone's going to love it. Someone's going to look at this and think it is the greatest thing of all time. Like, I see a lot of animators start out, and I see a lot of animators do stuff that I used to do when I was a kid. And I'm like, I really hope they stick with it, because I want to see them in the next 10 years get really good. And, you know, I have a lot of hope. You know, I think they're going to do really well. You know, I think it's going to be really good. And, you know, it really does change your life. Now, I've been saying that a lot in the video. Well, you know, how do you know? Or what's your proof? Well, you know, I said earlier, Clavum was sort of started in spite. Sort of started because a girl had rejected me, and I thought, well, you know, I'll claw my way back up. I'll find something, I'll find my calling, and then they will wish they knew better. And I was making the season, and a lot of people looked down on me, you know. They looked down on me for no real reason, I don't know. And I thought, well, you know, I will show you just who I am and who I can be and what I can do. And then season 1 came out, and you know, it got lukewarm reception. You know, it got about 20 views or something with all the videos, and I was kind of gutted by that. I realise now that, you know, this was all started in spite. So how do you expect it to be successful when it was started to prove someone wrong? You know, you didn't do it because you loved the craft. You didn't do it because you liked what you were making. Necessarily, you didn't do it because you thought it looked great or it was up to par or up to a standard. You did it because you wanted to prove someone wrong, and that in itself is wrong. So create to create. I made season 2. I was writing season 2. I was animating season 2. I started to make a fan base. I got all the comics out, which were done in a time where I felt much better about myself. You know, I made those comics. I put them out. People enjoyed them. Season 2 came out, people enjoyed that, you know. That was probably one of the greatest experiences of my life, you know, watching season 2 come out real time, you know. I get goosebumps when I think of, like, people watching season 2, episode 2, and the dark one at the end of it, and people were like, oh my god, the dark one, bro. Nah, man, it's an indescribable feeling, that, you know. It changed my life, it really did. You know, I went from someone who wanted to prove people wrong, I went from someone who wanted to be better than people or something, I went from someone who wanted fame and riches from what I made, to someone who was genuinely, like, proud and enjoyed the creative process, you know? I wasn't making cartoons to prove someone wrong. I wasn't making cartoons to make a lot of money. I wasn't making cartoons so I could be surrounded by women. I was making cartoons because I enjoyed it. You know, I was making comics because I enjoyed it. I was making cartoons because I enjoyed it. And maybe people will watch it and they'll learn something from it. You know, whether it's the PSA at the end or whether it's something in general, you know? There's something to that, you know? Do not create to prove someone wrong. Do not create to be the richest man alive. Do not create because you want to prove someone wrong. Create because you can. Because all the materials are at your possession, at your disposal. Just create, man. If you are scared to create, don't be. Because you will find your audience, you will find your people, you will find the people who like what you make, you will find the people who love what you make, you'll find the people who love what you make and want to help you make it better, you will find the people who enjoy what you make and want you to get out there in the world and send this out to everybody. You will find your people, okay? You know, if people say that your thing is bad, despite the fact that, you know, let's be real here, they haven't animated a day in their lives, you know, then they think it's bad. And they can live the rest of their life thinking it's bad, you know? You know how hard it took. You know how hard it was to make what you made. You knew how difficult it was. You knew how much work you put into it. Own it, you know? Because no matter what people say, and they're absolutely entitled to their opinion. If they think it looks bad, they think it looks bad, you know? They can't change their mind. At one point, you must have looked at that and thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever made, you know? No doubt. So own it, man. Wear that as a badge of honour, because it makes it worth it, honestly, you know? You know, there will be detractors, there are going to be people who think what you make is dumb, you know? But there's going to be an equal amount of people, perhaps even more, who think what you make is good and want to help you make it better and want to help you get it out to be. So what's the message of this video? I don't want you to make the same mistake I did. I don't want you to make the same mistake I did by doing this to prove someone wrong, by doing this to be better than someone. Don't do that. Don't go down the dark path. Don't be the kind of person that you swore you would never become, you know? Don't be the kind of person that young you would look at and be scared of, you know? Don't be some ruthless tycoon. Don't be some Andrew Tate wannabe. Don't be some guy who wants to be the next Stan Lee or Walt Disney, because, you know, maybe it could happen, but that shouldn't be the main result. That shouldn't be the main goal here, you know? Make because you want to. Make because you have a feeling inside you that the story you want to tell is worth telling and it deserves to be told. Because it does. It really does. So tell your story if you think it's worth telling. Write that comic, write that book, make that movie, make that cartoon, you know? And, you know, if you are afraid of making stuff because you are afraid of what people think, you are afraid of what people would say, remember that doing these kinds of things is a process, you know? Your first thing will be completely different to your last thing. You can learn and you can grow and you can become better. And even though the stuff you make may look inferior in your eyes, somebody's going to look at that and it's going to be their favourite thing of all time. And there are going to be people who look at it and say, well, this is good, but it could be better. Take the criticism on board and give it a shot, you know? Experiment, you know? Experiment and see what happens, because it's worth it. And I guess that's the message of the video. I've been at this for about 5 years now. I am a different man than I was 5 years ago. You know, I was a boy back then, I was a kid, you know, I thought the world ran on sunshine and lollipops, you know. I'm a different man now. I owe a lot of it to cartooning, you know. I used to hate writing essays, bro. I used to hate essays. I used to hate research, I used to hate it all. But, you know, working on Clavum for 6 months, you know, working on Clavum for 6 months a year, it shows you that hard work is good. You know, it can be good, so long as you genuinely enjoy it. And you can enjoy it if you want. If you don't enjoy it, don't feel pressured to do it, of course. But, you know, you work hard on something you love, you will work hard on everything else because you will find a way to love it somehow. You know, you will change so much when you do try to be creative. But don't do it for the wrong reasons, and don't be afraid, because, you know, if you do it for the wrong reasons, it may not work out and you'll just have egg on your face, and to be honest, rightly so. And if you're afraid of what people think, then there's always going to be someone out there who thinks that what you made is the greatest thing of all time, even though you may not think so. There is no better time to create, so please, if there's something in your mind that you think is worthy of putting out there, work on it and see what happens. Just go with it. I hope that this video inspires you, you know? I hope this video inspires you. Whether or not it makes you do something creative, that's up to you, and I'm not going to force you to do anything. I'm not going to come out on the other side of the screen, you know? But, you know, if it inspires you, then it's done its job. If it inspires you in another way, it's done its job. And if it helps you get through that new year and into the mid-20s with a smile on your face and hope in your heart, then it's done its job, and I wish nothing but the best for you. So stand and fight, because there is so much worth fighting for, whether it's creativity or the people around you. And I think I'll leave it there. So I got on a little thing coming up next to celebrate 5 years of Clavums Animation, you know. Just a little thing to wrap off the new year. I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you next year. Hopefully I'll come back with you with an update video. But I hope you've liked this very different, strange video. I'll see you all in the new year. Bye bye.
No place